What's up, YouTube? Adam Grover coming back at you with another video. Been a while. This past week I was sick. Wanted to do this video sooner, but came down with a cold. And today is really the first day that I've felt back to pretty much normal. So I'm still not 100%, but getting there. So figure why not do this now. So let's get to it. My dad put out a video a couple weeks ago, the first one, his opinion on Ford versus Chevy, why he likes what he likes. And I think he put out like another one. People aren't getting it, what he's trying to say. So I'm going to try to explain it and really dumb it down. And I mean that sincerely, to try to get this point across that he was trying to make. I mean, I don't know how much you really got to explain it, but I'm going to try to explain this as in-depth as possible and slow, so that way hopefully like the two wires in your brain kind of and make a connection, so you understand what he's trying to say. Now your opinion can be your opinion, you know, your experiences probably most likely going to be a lot different than ours have been. But I'm going to do my best to really just break this down so some of you guys understand what he's trying to say and what it is that we actually do. And I have perfect examples, so let's get into it. Try to find a little pointer for you guys. That's pretty long. Use that, I guess. Here are two motors. Now these are both 302s. We're going to start here, and then we're going to get into the Chevrolet. So this is a Ford 302 5.0 from an 87 all the way to 92 and a half. I'm going to explain this. These engines come with E7 heads. These heads are quite small. Look at that. Okay? Compared to a Chevrolet, they're very small. And they have way smaller valves. I want to say it's a 1.46 exhaust and like a 1.72 intake. Alright? You following me along here? These heads flow like not even 200 CFMs through the intake runner. I think it's like high 170s. Alright? They suck. Now, the exhaust over here has a bump. Okay. Let's see if I can put a light on. See in there? See that bump? If you take this bump out, that's roughly 10 to 20 horsepower. Okay? Just by removing this little bump right here. Look at that. Look. My thumb doesn't have much wiggle room in the exhaust port. It's about the size of your thumb. Especially with that EGR bump in there. Okay. Can't even get two fingers in there past that bump. Alright. Alright, so now that we have the heads down to where you understand how much they suck visually with my hand. Alright, for reference, if this is a drill, that's the size of my hand and my fingers. Alright. Now the heads here suck. These are probably one of the worst Ford heads made. There are worse. There's, ones with bigger chambers with the same ports and stuff. The smog heads, as we'll call them. But these heads here aren't that great. Alright. Now, this head, not this exact set on this engine, because I just bought these engines, the both of them. But a set just like this from Ford is what went 1040s in my car on a 150 shot of nitrous. Okay? With the factory cam, which is 444 lift, and the stock rotating assembly, meaning the stock crank, the stock rods, and the stock pistons. Now these heads here, I did have good valve springs on mine. That's the only thing I changed, because I was having a problem with valve float. Alright, on the nitrous. Now this exact, how you see this engine, I could take this engine, put an intake on it, a carburetor, a set of long tube headers, and this motor will go 1180s in a setup car such as this one. If it's light enough, it can go actually faster, because I did get more weight out of this car later on after I did this style setup. For reference, the car was 2,700 pounds with me in it. Now you might say, well, that's really light. That's, oh my goodness. Do you see that thing? The car's cut up? I cut it up after. Okay, I had a stock apron in the front. All that stuff was still factory up there. I had no bumper supports in the car. I still had crash bars in the doors with the 6-point roll bar that I didn't really need because I'm going 1180s. I still have the heater box in the car. It's actually still in there right now, the heater box. If the car had wipers, it had all the amenities it needed to be a street car, because this was to prove a point that you could take a car that's not a tin can and go these times with a factory 5.0. Literal junk. Like what we have here. Okay? So I'm going to run this over again with you guys. Stock block, stock crank, stock rods, factory pistons, which these come with TRW forged pistons factory if you get 86 to 92 and a half, early 92. Now 86 was a flat top, no valve relief. Okay, this valve cut right here, it didn't have any of these. Mind you, these motors are 8.9 to 1 compression. They're not even true 9 to 1. They're 8.9 to 1. Now, when I say I went 1180s with an engine, I'm saying I went 1180s with the factory Ford bearings that it came with, the factory wrist pins, the factory rings, untouched. The bottom end did not come apart. It got an oil pump in it. It got a new timing chain and gear in it. And the cam, I left it dot to dot, meaning that the cam was in factory spec. It wasn't advanced, nor was it retarded. It was in dot to dot factory spec. I used this factory bullcrap setup here with the lifters. The lifters probably, actually they did look like this with gunk in them. My dad yelled at me because I left it filthy. And he actually started cleaning stuff up a little bit behind my back. But I didn't want none of this cleaned. I didn't want the heads cleaned, which they weren't. because I yelled at him when he started to take a rag in the exhaust. And he said, these are gummed up. I said, I don't care. I want them gummed up. Because the point I was trying to prove was you can take a literal junk yard 302 out of a car that runs, put an intake, a carburetor, and exhaust on it, and it will do an 11-second time slip in the car with gear, a driver, and some weight out of it, which the weight out of the car is average stuff people do with a Fox body. Okay? Now, all the Chevy guys, they're all upset. A Ford motor can't do what a Chevy does, and they're comparing their Chevys. And the first thing I notice with their Chevy engines is this right here. See this? This is an aftermarket Chevy piston. Alright? This is actually a forged Icon piston because Chevrolets don't come with forged pistons from the factory. They come with cast. Okay? So this one here is forged. And this is usually the first thing people do to a Chevy motor is they put pistons in it. They put rods in it. They might even put a crank, or they might use the stock one. But at least every Chevy engine that I've heard of has a piston. And everyone with a piston runs pretty good. You can go pretty fast with a 350 or a 355, even a 400 with a aftermarket piston. Now, I asked a question on Facebook a while back when I was doing this 350 build. How fast can you go with a stock bottom end 350, just to see what people were going, because I get curious and I want to know other people's numbers so I can get an idea of where I should be at, because I know where I want to be at when I come up with the numbers. Like when I tell you guys a car is going to run X time, that's me figuring it out where it's going to be. And sometimes when I tell you guys how fast the car is going to go, that's not what I have figured out. That's a couple tenths slower. So that way you guys don't completely think I'm off my rocker. Now, getting back to this. I asked. The fastest pass I was told was 11.1 or 11.20s. Okay? If I remember correctly, that was hitting it with an adder. I could be wrong. Let's just say it was on motor, 11.20s. That's with aftermarket heads, aftermarket cam, and intake. It's just the stock bottom end. Okay? Now, I'm trying to calm down so I can actually think to tell you guys this. This is my second Gen 1 small block Chevy. Or if you really want to say it's the third, you could. Because the first one was in the Blazer that I bought in the truck. The second one would be this motor with the stock crank rods and piston combination with the factory heads on it, which wasn't very impressive, but didn't run terrible. Third would be this setup because this whole motor's completely changed. The cam, the crank, the rods, the pistons, all of it is being redone. The block has been honed. It's got new bearings, new rings, all of that have been redone on this engine. Now this engine hopefully will go in the 10s on motor. Alright? Hopefully. It should. Really. And you might say, well, how do you figure that? Well, I base it off of what my little Ford motor did. To be honest with you, if you take a 302 cubic inch motor and you take those crappy heads over there, if you send them to my dad you have my dad do a set, he can get them to flow right around 200 CFMs, which don't sound impressive until you look at the velocity and how they run. Because you think, well, 200 CFMs, that sucks, you know? They actually flow, might have hit over 200, way up there in the lift range. But where they operate with the cam that I have and stuff, I think it was like 198. Now, this is why we don't go by flow numbers over here. Because you take a head that flows 198 CFMs and you think, well, that's trash. Why would I even waste my time? But that head has gone 10 seconds naturally aspirated. That head has been in the 9s on a 150 shot of nitrous with a 530 lift cam, hydraulic roller on pump fuel with a Action Plus dual plane intake manifold and a 750 out of the box pretty much. I didn't do too much to that 750. Now, I'm not saying we're setting the world on fire. I'm not saying that those are fast flying times. But to find other people that do it is rare. I will say that. It's hard to find. Now, I just told you that whole combination for the 302, and I'm going to go back over that in this video. And it's coming pretty soon. Because I'm going to tell you about the 377 I had in the Blazer. Now, 377 is a 400 small block Chevy, for those of you who don't know, with a 350 crank in it. Now, this engine had decent rods, factory crank, but decent rods, good pistons in it, about 11.5 to 1 compression, had Dart Iron Eagle heads. I want to say they were 200 cc heads. Solid roller, 580, 590 lift, comp cam. I want to say it was a 110 lobe separation angle on that cam. I forget the duration. Had the Dart intake on it, single plane. And a 950 Pro Systems carburetor. And Magnum rockers, roller rockers. Good stuff. Good little motor, stout. Ran pretty good. Got me in the winner's circle. You know, hit it with some nitrous, could cruise it. Good little motor. I like that motor. That truck was about 3,200 pounds with me in it. Now on motor, went 1130s or 1120s. I think I got it to go. And on Sprite, went a 1030. All right. Now, I'm going to get into a little bit of power and weight. So if you need a notebook to write this down, I want you guys to do it. Because we're going to figure this out together here. So Blazer was 3,200 pounds. Had that de-stroked aftermarket rod and piston combo in it. With aftermarket heads. Aftermarket solid roller camshaft. Good valve train, obviously. Single plane intake. Pro Systems carburetor, which is not cheap. 950 CFM carburetor. Big carb. And obviously a nice fender well header. Long tube. And it went, like I said, 1120s on motor. And on 150 shot, when a 1030 was the best time that truck ever went. on nitrous. Now, the green Mustang. It's 2,700 pounds. I told you the stock bottom end 302. Stock bottom end. No rings, no bearings. Stock bottom end 302. No deck work. Wasn't like a cheater motor that was decked. None of that. Motor never came apart. Under my ownership, at least. The ported factory casted head. E7. GT40 sized valves. Good valve springs. Scorpion roller rockers. Good push rods, which were also in the 377. Factory lifters, and a factory cradle and everything. Dog bones, and tray. Action Plus 8011 dual plane intake. 750 carburetor. 530 lift cam, Anderson N51 camshaft. Hydraulic roller. That car went at 1080 on motor. And it went 990s on the bottle. And I'm sorry, it's 2,600 pounds at that time. Not 27, 26 at that time. That's when I pulled a little bit more weight out of it. That's both vehicles race ready. So Mustang's 26, the Blazer's 32. Right? That's 27, 28, 29, 3,000, 31, 32. It's a 600 pound difference. Right? 600 pound difference. Now, rule of thumb is 100 pounds is a tenth of a second. All right? So, we're going to take the time the Blazer ran, and we're going to make it weigh 2,600 pounds. So we're going to deduct 6/10 what it ran. So 1120s, that's 1110, 11.0, 1090, 1080, 1070, 1060 on motor. Went a 1030 on the bottle, 1020, 1010, 10.0, 990, 980, 970. So we got 970 on bottle and a 1060 on motor. That 302 went a 990 on the bottle. Same nitrous shot. And it went a 1080 on motor. So you're talking 0.2 of a second between the two setups at the same weight. On motor, 0.2. And on bottle, what I say, 970. Yeah, 0.2 on both. 0.2. Cut and dry, 0.2 faster. A built small block Chevy with aftermarket heads. Thawed out setup. De-stroked 400. 377 cubes. Solid roller camshaft. Bigger camshaft by 50 thousandths inches of lift. Actually, yeah, we'll say 50 thousand. Probably closer to 60, but 50 thousandths inches of lift. We'll keep it simple. Better head, aftermarket heads, single plane, big single plane intake compared to a dual plane, and 200 more CFMs worth of carburetor. 0.2. 0.2. Is it worth 0.2 to spend all that money and all that effort on an engine to go that 0.2 when you could get a junk bull crap 302, port the heads or have them ported, which you might say, if one of you guys that don't do this stuff yourself, you might say, well, you had to port the heads. You had to put valves in them anyway. Now, I don't know what was done to them darts. They look like they might have been into as well, but... So let's just say the heads are a wash. Heads are whatever. Cams, you got to buy a cam regardless. Let's talk about the short block. That from a 8.9 to 1 compression to 11.5 to 1 compression. Aftermarket parts in one, stock junk in the other with the rings not even gapped. I haven't even hit cubic inch because you're talking 75 extra cubic inches in the Chevrolet. Are you picking up what I'm putting down here? It took a lot of effort and just the short block to go 0.2 faster than a 302. Than a junk 302 with factory casted heads that have been ported. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Because I told you that the heads, you know, they had GT40 valves. I told you I had Scorpion rockers. I'm going to be honest with you. Before I did that, the car still went 990. But it went 1090 on motor. I picked up 1/10 on motor. 1/10 of a second on motor. And honestly, I picked up 1/10 going from a 650 to a 750 carburetor. That's where I saw the 10th. Because the cars ran the setups, the 302 setups, before the valves, before the Scorpion rockers, all that. The car went the same with the 650 carburetors after doing all that work. It was actually depressing. Now, I might confuse you a little bit, and I'm sorry if I did. But I'm giving you the combination with better parts in it than the one with crappier parts. Because really, I could have kept the stock rockers. Those crappy ones that I talked about in the last video I did. The ones I just showed you. These go 9s. They do. 990. So you tell me. Is it worth spending all the money on the heads, the cam, all that, to put that Chevy motor to go 0.2 faster than a 302? Now, it might seem real contradicting because I have a 350 on the stand with aftermarket, all the stuff that I basically just told you. Aftermarket crank, aftermarket rods, aftermarket pistons, heads ported to the, I mean, good grief. Ported, epoxied heads. I mean, these things, I don't know if they have a choice but to work. Hopefully. I got faith in my dad's work. He usually does a great job, so I'm counting on it. Solid roller cam. It's a lot of effort to try to go 10s NA. But I'm trying to go like a mid-10 with this setup. To be honest with you, I'm really trying to go like a 1030, like a mid to low 10. If it goes 9s on motor, I'm not even going to bother putting the supercharger on it. I don't even know if I told my dad that yet. So you heard it first. That's where I'm at. That's my expectations of this 350. Because I know how much effort I have into the 302, and I know how much more effort is into this 350 to try to do what I want it to do. And I'm telling you, it's thought out. There are some stuff I would like to change in it, maybe later, like the cam and things, but that's a lot more effort in that little 350 than the motors laying on the floor right here that can go in a car. Granted, one needs bearings in it. It was overheated real bad and it lost oil pressure. It's not the motor's fault, per se. Actually, it wasn't, because the fan was bad on the car and it overheated. The other motor was the replacement for that one. And that one overheated. They shut that one off, though. I could take the good one with decent oil pressure right now. They let it sit with no heads on it. So as long as I can get it to turn over, I could take that motor, dump it into this car, put a set of Porta E7s back on it, take the heads off the other one, port them, put them on that motor, hit it with nitrous, and the car's gonna, I already know what it's gonna do because I did it. I got the intake, I could put that whole setup together in that car and do it all over again. I'm trying not to sound repetitive. 2/10, guys, between a fully built motor, Chevy, somebody who knew what they were doing. That setup wasn't like a haha, it's budget tossed together junk. It was a thought out built setup. Now I'm not saying my 302 wasn't thought out, but if you guys only knew and seen and witnessed, you guys would think I'm lying. You probably do think I'm lying to you even now. When I tell you it had rust in the cylinders and we used the emery cloth pad to clean it and we tossed it in. Like, if you guys only knew, if you only really actually were there to see it, and it might sound like I'm harping on it, you might hear it in every video, whatever people will start to say when they start watching this stuff or whatever. But if you guys actually only witnessed it, I wish you did. I really do. Because you guys would just be that, like, how? I had a guy tell me, he goes, dude, I don't know how, I don't get it. He goes, this guy, he notches his pistons with a drill and a cookie wheel. And here I am having engine trouble, trying to do it right. And his is staying together. Because that's what I did to make the GT, after I had the heads with the bigger valves put in and all that. I notched the pistons so it cleared the cam. Because I tried to get a little bit more compression out of it. Still stock pistons and all, but I notched them. And it did nothing. It wasn't even worth the effort. It's how I know how much effort can go into one of these motors to make it go. And if it was turbo setup, they go into 9s with the factory heads. People have done it. With the factory E7s or out-of-the-box GT40s with a valve spring upgrade. People do it. Forgive me for this chair creaking. I know it's creaking a lot, but the turbo stuff, turbo cars are faster than the nitrous cars when it comes to these motors. But that's pretty much almost anything. Boost is hard to beat. Nitrous, you start to run out. Boost, you can usually up it and it'll keep making power as long as it can hold it. And same goes for these 302s. You put a turbo on them, you pump boost through them, they can make plenty of power to go fast. I mean, what's this? Chris Watson did it. The car went 590s. He's got the fastest stock bottom end stick shift record. Made 900 wheel horsepower with his car. At 501 they split, or 500.1 they split, whatever that whole bull crap is. Throw that out the window. Technology is here and it's getting better and better and better as time progresses. So it's not 1999 no more. I will say this, the Chevy motors can make more power. You know, you can detonate one of them and you might blow piston out as long as the block don't get messed up. The block will hold it. Where the 302s won't. They will crack if you detonate them, and especially if you beat the snot out of them, like I have. But I never made big power. I probably made about 500 wheel. It's probably about where I'm at, if I had to guesstimate it. I never sprayed the car on the dyno to see, but I know what it made on motor. It made 320 to the tire. And, 150 shot. If you go 150 direct and it picks up 150, then that would be, 470? So anywhere from 470 to maybe 500 if I'm getting a lot out of that tune-up, because you can make more than what the 150 shot gives you. You can make 170 out of a 150 shot if you know what you're doing. So guesstimation, I would say I was anywhere from 470 to 500 wheel horsepower in that car. Guesstimating. It had to be for the mile an hour put down. I mean, that car's trapped as high as 136 mile an hour. When it went to 9, I'll put it to you this way, I went 990 at 130. I went 10.0 at 136. So you might figure, well, how'd that do that? It's wheel speed. Wheel speed will build mile an hour at the end. And the 60 foot wasn't that much worse. I went from a 130, I think I went 138 to like a 142. Like, it wasn't crazy. Slower, but wasn't like I blew the tires off and built mile an hour. It was like it hazed them and built mile an hour that way. So just to give you guys an idea, it did trap a 136 mile an hour pass more than once. Because I was like, man, if I could get this mile an hour with the 60 foot at the 138, she'd be riding. Probably could have went like a 970, roughly. Guesstimation on that. Kind of wish I would have stuck with it more. Kind of wish I would have dialed that suspension in more, because I figured out what I did wrong back then. But you live and you learn. So shoulda, coulda, woulda. So we're gonna see what this setup does and try to get this one right. But there's a lot of other stuff going on at the moment. So customers' cars to put together. I got my wagon that I want to show you guys progress. Excuse me. Some of you guys might have saw the Malibu posted. I would like to do that. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, because that vehicle, it might go for sale. It's up in the air. So hopefully you guys get to witness that whole thing. The Ford versus Chevy, the wagon versus the four-door Malibu. But no promises. So, but there will be stuff coming with the wagon, different things in the future that I have planned to do. So as long as everything goes according to plan, you guys will be seeing some good stuff with that. And you'll see the Mustang, the 55. As you saw, the motor for the 55 is done. Short block at least. I don't even think my dad, I think I did show him pictures of it actually, but you know, he just found out about it a week ago, and it's been together for probably 2 or 3 now. So so yeah, that's where we're at with things. Hopefully this video kind of shined a little light on where we're coming from with this Ford versus Chevy stuff. I own both. I actually like the Gen 1 small blocks. I'm not a fan of LS's due to dependability issues that I've had. But as far as the Gen 1 small block goes, for Chevrolet, you know, they're not bad, but a factory bottom end one, I didn't even touch on how much nitrous the 302s and stuff can take because of that forged piston compared to what a Chevy cast piston could handle. You know, I mean, there's a lot of differences in just the short blocks. GMs don't even fit the size cams that a small block Ford can, which, you know, 30 thousandths a lift. It's really based on more so duration and other event numbers, but I'll base it off lift just for craps and giggles, I guess. You know, 30 thousandths inches of lift. I mean, it might not sound like much, but that Chevrolet, factory head to factory head, that Chevy is going to want that extra 30 thousandths more than the Ford will off the bat. A Ford, the biggest cam you can fit in a Chevy is about perfect for a factory Ford E7 head. About 500, 510 lift. They're done. That's it. There's really no reason to even go over that. So, you know, Ford did a good job on those motors. Now, the older ones, sure, I got the 68 motor in the wagon. We're going to see what that can handle. But for cubic inch and just using stock crap, man, I'm telling you, them Ford motors are hard to beat. They're really hard to beat. So I think I went on long enough. Hopefully this helps some guys understand, especially the bullheaded GM guys. Might say I'm a bullheaded Ford guy, but I own both. So I can see the disadvantages and advantages to both. Believe me, I got a 55 out there. I love that car. But I am this close to putting a Ford motor in it, to be honest with you guys. So they're just that simple. It really, for anybody that just wants to do a 10-second slip, there ain't no reason to do anything else but a 302, to be honest with you. No reason. So, that being said, like I said, hopefully it shines some light on the subject for what my dad was trying to say. I tried to really dumb this down so people understand. And people who actually don't know. There's some guys who don't know, and then there's just some bullheaded guys that actually are smart, and they don't want to admit it. But I know some Chevy guys that have seen and done and did, or whatever you want to say, and they'll even admit that it's hard to beat a little Ford motor. That they are, for what they are, they're pretty impressive. So, if you guys really want to compare, one guy wanted to have a build-off. If you want to go find a junkyard 305, I got the 302 right here. We can go at it. Pick whatever set of stock small block Chevy heads you want. Leave that stock cam in there because that's going to be our build-off. Alright? That's your build-off. The factory heads, the factory cam, we can do it real cheap. Dual plane intakes a piece. Run whatever carburetor you want. I run the carburetor I want. Long tube headers and whatever chassis you want. Whatever chassis I got, we match weight. Stick on stick crime. Gear it however you want. And we will send it. And I promise you, we'll see which one lives and which one goes fast. And we can both put nitrous on them. Nitrous a piece. That way there's no, well, you have boost, you have nitrous. There's no discrepancy. Nitrous, dual plane intakes, long tube headers, aftermarket carburetors, same weight chassis. Gear it. And let's go. If you really want to build something to face off like that, I am down to do it. Down to do it. So, anybody that's down to do that, you let me know, and we can set something up. Because I got a chassis sitting right out back here. And I know my dad will let me use it. Yeah, my dad's Notch. So, I got motors sitting here. Buddy of mine has a T5. If I really need it, he'd probably let me use it, or I could buy it off him, whatever. Trust me, I can come up with something to toss together and smack this thing together, and we can scope each other's engines. You can drain the oil, go in through the oil pan hole. We can pull a spark plug. You can look in it. Whatever you guys want to do. If somebody really wants to match this, we can write the combinations down a piece, agree to terms. Hey, I'm easy. I'm easy. We can make this real simple. And the closest you're going to get is a 305 to a 302. So let's do it. Let's do it. I'm down. 110%. All right? I'm almost going to say, I don't think anybody's going to take me up on that. They're going to want that 350 or that 400. But 305 to 302, let's do it. I am so down for that. So I already know the outcome. It might sound cocky. I'm not telling you guys the outcome, but I can tell you I could. There's some pretty good running 305s out there, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't see it. So, not stock bottom end at least. If you guys want to de-stroke or make whatever strokers you want. But stock bottom end's a piece. I'm telling you right now, stock heads and all. I got a lot of faith. It's not even me being cocky. It's just faith that a 302 will... I probably shouldn't have even added that into this video just because it sounds so cocky, but I just can't see it. So, there you guys have it. Now, that's my truth. My opinion. I'm just going to end it right there. Let me know. Comment if you guys like this, like it, subscribe, whatever you guys want to do. I appreciate you guys watching, especially if you stuck around for 47 minutes. Get out there, work on your stuff, build some budget bull crap, have fun. That's what it's about. You guys take it easy, and I'll see you around.